The dojo was alive with energy. Students practiced their moves. The sound of fists hitting pads echoed through the room, and proud parents watched from the sides. It was test day, a big event for all martial arts students. Ethan, a confident 19-year-old, had just received his black belt. He stood in the center of the mat, tall and proud, smiling as others clapped for him. Sweat glistened on his forehead, but he didn't mind. He felt unstoppable. Ethan had always been one of the best in the dojo, fast, strong, and full of energy. But along with his skills, he carried a sense of arrogance. He believed no one could beat him, especially not in this room, as the students took a break. Ethan noticed someone quietly sweeping the floor in the corner. It was Mr. Koji, the janitor. He was a quiet man in his late 50s, wearing old clothes and moving slowly with a broom in his hand. Most students didn't pay attention to him. He just cleaned day after day, never speaking much. But today, Ethan felt like showing off. Maybe it was the attention he was getting. Maybe it was the high of earning his black belt. He smirked, turned toward Koji, and shouted just loud enough for others to hear. "Hey, old man, you ever learn to fight, or just sweep floors?" Some students laughed. A few looked uncomfortable, but no one stopped him. Koji paused. He looked up slowly, met Ethan's eyes, and gave a small smile. His expression was calm, not angry, not sad. "Just still, I've learned a little," Koji said softly. Ethan chuckled. "Why don't you spar with me then? I could use a warm-up." The room grew quiet. The laughter faded. Few students exchanged glances. Was Ethan serious? Spar with the janitor? Master Lin, the head of the dojo, stood near the back, observing. He didn't say anything, only watched. Koji gently leaned, his broom against the wall. He slowly walked to the center of the mat and bowed respectfully. "If you wish." Ethan was surprised, but he nodded. "All right then, let's see what you've got." As Mr. Koji removed his old work coat, something unexpected happened. Beneath it was a worn white githa uniform of a martial artist. It was old and faded, with a frayed black belt tied tightly around the waist. The belt looked even older than Ethan's new one. The room fell completely silent. No more laughter. Pooh! No more talking. Ethan blinked, confused. His smile faded, just a little dot. Who was this man? He looked like a janitor. But the way he bowed, the way he moved, something about him felt different. Master Lin's eyes sparkled faintly, as if he knew a secret no one else did. The match was about to begin, and no one in that room was ready for what would happen next. Ethan stood in the middle of the mat, trying to hide his confusion. I'd expected the janitor to walk away or laugh it off, not accept the challenge, and definitely not reveal a black belt older than his own. The laughter from earlier had disappeared. Now the students stood still, eyes locked on Mr. Koji. Koji stepped calmly onto the mat. His movements were slow, but full of purpose. He tied his belt neatly, then bowed with perfect form. It wasn't the bow of a beginner. It was the bow of someone who had done this thousands of times before. Ethan returned the bow quickly, still thinking this would be easy. "Don't go easy on me, old man," he said with a cocky grin. Koji didn't reply. He simply raised his hands into a ready stance. It was quiet now, so quiet that even the soft rustle of Koji's GI could be heard. The students watched with wide eyes. No one knew what to expect. The match began. Ethan moved first, fast and sharp. He launched a quick punch, aiming for Koji's chest. But just as his fist reached forward, Koji shifted to the side gracefully, like a leaf in the wind. Ethan's punch missed completely. Before Ethan could pull back, Koji tapped his shoulder gently and stepped away. It was a small move, but it said everything. Ethan's eyes widened. He rushed in again, this time with more force. A spinning kick, a feint, a combination of speed and power. Still, Koji didn't fight back. He simply moved with ease, avoiding each attack like water. Flowing around a rock then, with a single step, Koji swept Ethan's leg. In one blink, Ethan was on the ground. The room gasped. No one said a word. It was as if the air had been pulled out of the room. Ethan sat up quickly, red-faced. Couldn't believe it. He was stronger. He was younger. He had trained for years. And yet this man, this janitor, had put him on the floor with one simple move. Koji stepped back respectfully and waited. Ethan stood up again. This time, he didn't smile. He didn't speak. He raised his hands, more focused now, but also more nervous. They moved again. And again, Koji didn't hit hard. He didn't attack first. He used only what was necessary. Each block, each step, each dodge was like watching someone dance with time itself. Master Lin watched with quiet pride. He remembered Koji from long ago, a man once known across dojos for his balance, wisdom, and unmatched technique. A legend who disappeared from the fighting world years ago, silently sweeping floors. Now here he was teaching a lesson without anger, without ego. Just calm truth. By the end of the short spar, Ethan stood still, breathing hard. Koji hadn't broken a sweat. The match ended with another bow. Koji's eyes were gentle, not mocking. Turned and walked back to where his broom rested against the wall. The students didn't laugh. They didn't cheer. They simply watched. In awe, because in those few quiet moments they had seen something rare, something real. The students stood frozen, their eyes locked on Mr. Koji, who had just walked back to the corner of the dojo. He picked up his old broom and quietly began sweeping again, as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just humbled the most confident fighter in the room without breaking a sweat. Ethan was still standing on the mat, chest rising and falling quickly. His heart was pounding not from physical pain, but from something deeper, embarrassment, confusion, and something he wasn't used to feeling. Respect. He had expected to win in seconds. To make the janitor look foolish. Instead, he had been taught a silent lesson in front of everyone. One by one, the students turned to Master Lin, waiting for him to speak. But he didn't. He simply smiled gently and said, "Clean technique, calm spirit, that's true mastery." Some students nodded. Slowly. Others looked at Koji with wide eyes, realizing they had seen something special, something beyond belts, trophies, or titles. Ethan walked off the mat, shoulders heavy. He sat on a bench in the corner, eyes staring at the floor. His friends didn't know what to say. No one laughed anymore. The silence that filled the room wasn't uncomfortable. It was full of realization. Everyone had seen true skill, and it didn't come from the one wearing the newest belt. A young girl, no older than 10, walked up to Mr. Koji. She looked up at him with curious eyes. "Mister, are you a real master?" she asked softly. Koji paused, looking down at her. A kind smile touched his lips. "I'm just someone who's been training a long time," he said gently, "and still learning." The girl smiled shyly and bowed. Koji returned the bow, then quietly continued sweeping. Whispers began spreading. Among the students, "I think he was a fighter long ago. Did you see how he moved? He didn't even hit Ethan hard, but he still won." The respect in the room shifted. It was no longer pointed at Ethan. It was aimed at the man no one had paid attention to for years. The janitor, who was always in the background, sweeping floors, wiping windows, fixing broken things. Now, people were seeing him with new eyes. Ethan finally looked up. His gaze followed Koji's movements the way he swept, slow and peaceful, like he had no need to prove anything to anyone. That calmness felt stronger than any punch. He stood up and walked toward Master Lin. "Who is he?" Ethan asked quietly. "Master." Lin looked at Koji and then at Ethan. His voice was low but firm. "Someone you should have shown respect to before you challenged." Ethan lowered his head. "I didn't know." Master Lin placed a hand on his shoulder. "That's the point. Never judge someone by what they wear or what they do. Skill, heart, and wisdom they don't always shout. Sometimes they sweep quietly." The dojo remained quiet for the rest of the day, but the silence spoke louder than words. The next morning, the dojo felt different. The air was quiet, thoughtful. Everyone moved a little slower, a little more respectful. The students greeted Mr. Koji with small bows, even though he was once invisible to them. He still wore the same faded clothes and carried the same old broom, but now their eyes followed him with silent wonder. Ethan came in quietly, his usual loud energy missing. He didn't go straight to training. Instead, he sat near the edge of the mat, watching Mr. Koji sweep the floor like he did every morning. The moment from yesterday replayed in his mind again and again. How easily Koji had moved, how calm he had been, how he hadn't tried to embarrass Ethan, even after being mocked in front of everyone. That kind of control didn't come from strength alone. It came from something deeper finally, after some hesitation. Ethan stood up and walked toward Master Lin, who was arranging weapons near the back wall. Master Lin. Ethan began softly. Who is Mr. Koji really? Master Lin looked at him with a knowing smile. You saw his skill. That wasn't your imagination. Ethan nodded. But he's a janitor. He doesn't even train with us. Master Lin took a slow breath and leaned against the wall. Many years ago, began, Koji was one of the best martial artists in Japan. Fast, powerful, but more than that wise. Was known not just for his skill in the ring, but for his kindness and calm spirit. People came from all over to train under him. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. Then why is he here? Master Lin's voice softened. He left everything after a personal tragedy. His wife died suddenly. He couldn't bear the pain. He gave up teaching, gave up competing, and disappeared. One day, many years later, he walked into this dojo not asking to teach, not asking to train, just asking for a job he wanted. To be close to martial arts again, even if it meant sweeping floors. Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. He looked at Mr. Koji, still moving quietly with his broom. There was no bitterness in his face, no pride, only peace. He never told us who he was, Master Lin continued. I only recognized him a few years ago. He asked me not to say anything. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to be useful. Ethan was silent for a long moment. His chest felt heavy, not from shame, but from a deep, aching respect. I mocked him, he whispered. Yes, Master Lin said gently. But he didn't humiliate you. He taught you. That's what real masters do. Ethan nodded slowly. His voice cracked slightly when he spoke again. Do you think he'd train me? Master Lin smiled. That's for you to ask. But be sure you're not asking for more power. Ask to understand. Ethan looked down, then back at Koji. This time he saw not a janitor, not a fighter, but a man with deep pain, deep wisdom, and deep strength. A quiet legend, never needed to speak to be heard. Ethan stood outside the dojo for a long time that evening, the sun dipping below the horizon. The building was quiet now. Most of the students had gone home. Inside, the lights were still on, and through the window, he could see Mr. Koji wiping. Down the mats, one careful stroke at a time, Ethan took a deep breath and walked in. His steps were slow, uncertain, so different from his usual bold style. Koji didn't look up. He kept wiping the floor, humming a soft tune to himself, calm as always. Ethan stopped a few feet away and lowered his head. Mr. Koji, he said, voice low but steady. I want to say something. Koji paused, then turned toward him. His expression was the same kind, open, without any trace of anger or pride. I was wrong, Ethan said. I disrespected you. I laughed at you. And you showed me something I'll never forget. Not just your skill, but your patience, your strength. I was so full of myself that I couldn't see the truth in front of me. Koji looked at the young man for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Sometimes we all need to fall before we learn how to stand properly. Ethan's eyes grew misty. I want to learn, not just kicks and punches. I want to learn the part I've been missing. The inside part. Will you teach me? Koji didn't answer right away. He looked back down at the mat, running the cloth across it one last time. Then he stood up, folding the cloth neatly. Training is not just about learning how to fight, he said softly. It's about learning who you are when the fight ends. Can you be humble when you win? Can you be strong when you lose? Can you protect instead of hurt? Ethan nodded quickly. I want to try. I really do. Koji studied him, and for the first time, a small smile touched his face. Not just polite, but warm. He saw the change in Ethan. The arrogance was gone. What remained was a young man willing to grow. Then come tomorrow, Koji said. At sunrise, no belts, no uniforms. Just you, ready to listen. Ethan smiled through teary eyes. I'll be there. As he turned to leave, Master Lin stepped out from the office. Having watched the entire conversation quietly, he placed a gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder. You took the first step, he said. The hardest one. Ethan looked up at him. I thought being a black belt meant I had reached the top. Master Lin shook his head with a smile. Sometimes earning the belt is just the beginning. Night Ethan didn't sleep much. His mind was full of thoughts, not of fights, not of winning, but of peace, honor, and the quiet strength of a man who swept the floors and changed his life. The sky was still dark when Ethan arrived at the dojo. The streetlights were glowing softly, and the air carried the cool calm of early morning. He rubbed his hands together, a little nervous, a little cold. It wasn't just the chill and the irrit was the feeling of stepping into something unknown. He wore no uniform today, just simple clothes and bare feet. Mr. Koji had told him, no belts, no ranks. Today, he was just a student with an open heart. The dojo door creaked open, and inside, the mats were quiet and empty. But near the far corner, Ethan saw him. Mr. Koji was already there, sitting cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, completely still. Ethan hesitated, then bowed quietly and sat down across from him. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was peaceful. Gentle light began to slip through the windows as the sun slowly rose outside. After a few minutes, Koji opened his eyes. Most people begin with movement, he said softly. But the strongest movements start with stillness. Ethan nodded, not fully understanding, but willing to learn. Koji stood up and walked toward the center of the mat. Today we begin with breathing, with balance, not of body, but of mind. For the next hour, they didn't spar. They didn't punch or kick. Instead, Koji guided Ethan through slow breathing, mindful steps, and quiet movements. At first, Ethan struggled. He was used to speed, to action, but this was different, slower, deeper. He began to feel his heartbeat slow. His mind quieted. Then Koji handed him a wooden stick-a-bakken. This is not a weapon, he said. It is a mirror. It shows your tension, your fears, your ego. When you strike, strike with calm, not anger. With purpose, not pride. Ethan nodded and followed his lead. The movements were simple, but not easy. Each strike had to be controlled. Each step had to be steady. Slowly, Ethan began to feel something shift inside him. It was no longer about proving anything. It was about understanding. After 2 hours, they sat again, breathing softly. Sweat on Ethan's brow, but peace in his heart. Koji looked at him and asked, "What did you learn today?" Ethan thought for a moment. "I learned that strength isn't loud. It's not fast. Real strength feels quiet." Koji smiled. "Good. Then the real training has begun." They stood together as the golden sunlight filled the dojo. Outside, the city was waking up. Cars were beginning to move. People rushing. But inside the dojo, it felt like time had slowed. As Ethan left that morning, he didn't walk like the boy who had mocked a janitor just days ago. He walked like a student, calm, thoughtful, and eager to return. And for the first time, he understood why the room had gone silent that day. It wasn't fear, it wasn't surprise. Weeks passed, and the dojo began to change quietly, just like Mr. Koji's steps. Students greeted him with respect now, not out of fear, but from understanding. They had seen the truth, had seen how strength could be silent, and how greatness could live in the most unexpected places. Ethan came every morning before sunrise. He no longer wore his black belt during those early sessions. He trained in plain clothes, just like Mr. Koji had asked. Each day, they practiced breathing, balance, and stillness. They talked little, but the bond between them grew stronger. Ethan's movements became softer, smoother. his eyes calmer. He no longer tried to prove himself. He only tried to learn. One day after training, Koji handed him a wooden box. It was old but carefully kept. Inside was a small scroll with faded Japanese writing, and a worn cloth belt older than any Ethan had seen. This belonged to my master, Koji said quietly. He gave it to me when I stopped trying to win and started trying to understand. Ethan held the belt in his hands, his fingers trembling. But I'm not ready, he whispered. Koji nodded. You're not. Not yet. Don't. That's why I'm giving this to you now, to remind you true mastery is not about reaching the end. It's about staying humble, always learning. Ethan's eyes welled with tears, and he bowed deeply. Thank you, Sensei. Koji paused. No need to call me Sensei, he said gently. Call me Koji. I'm just another student of life. Later that day, Master Lin gathered all the students at the dojo for a special lesson. Koji stood beside him, still in his janitor's clothes, holding his broom like always. Master Lin cleared his throat. Today's lesson isn't about fighting, he said. It's about respect. Many of you watched a sparring match a few weeks ago. You saw a student fall and rise stronger, and you saw a man many ignored show what true strength looks like. He turned to Ethan. Would you like to speak? Ethan stepped forward, nervous but steady. I used to think being a black belt meant I was better than others, he said. I thought belts and trophies made me strong. Well, Mr. Koji, he showed me what real strength looks like. It's quiet, it's patient, and it never looks down on anyone.
Oh.
The room was silent again, just like that day. But this time, the silence felt warm, full of pride and understanding. Ethan bowed deeply toward Koji. Thank you for teaching me. Koji gave a gentle nod and smiled, saying nothing. From that day forward, no one called him just a janitor. They called him Koji-san. Not because of titles, but because of the quiet respect he had earned without ever asking for it. And Ethan, he trained harder than ever, but now with humility. He swept the floors after class. He helped new students. He became the kind of person he once thought he already was. The boy who mocked the janitor had grown into a man who understood him, and that, in the end, was the real victory.